back with the refill. Shaun King is here with us. Talk to me about the North Star.
Well, all the way back in 1847, I got to go way back. Frederick Douglass and a black nationalist named Martin Delany, who was probably the one person in history that I wish everybody knew more about.
Absolutely.
They started a newspaper at the height of slavery. This is before the Civil War, 1847. This is 15 years after Nat Turner's rebellion. They started a newspaper because they were so frustrated with the way mainstream newspapers, but even white-owned abolitionist newspapers, were covering the issue of slavery. And they just came together. They weren't even natural allies, Frederick Douglass and Martin Delany. They just came together and said, we could do this better ourselves. And they did something that in 1847 was completely revolutionary. They started a paper. They owned it, they built it, they sent it all around the world. And its purpose wasn't just to tell the news from a black perspective. Its purpose was to fight for freedom. His purpose was to confront slavery. His purpose was the abolition of slavery.
Yeah.
And when I decided to rebuild and relaunch this thing, the North Star, it wasn't because I thought the world needed another website or that we even needed another news platform necessarily, but that I felt strongly that we needed a news platform that still had freedom, abolition, that still had this like in its DNA, that its primary mission wasn't just to tell news stories well, but was to fight against injustice, and that's what we're about. So,
but it's much more than a newspaper online.
Yeah. So if you go to thenorthstar.com, we now have nearly 1,000 original articles we've published over the past 4 months. Our iPhone app just launched. We launched our first podcast called The Breakdown, and it's been in the top 10 news and politics podcasts in the world for 2 months straight. And we are completely free to tell stories the way we want and need to tell them. Because we're completely independent, we don't even have advertisements or loans or investors. We're completely funded by our members. We can speak as boldly about the issues that we care about in a way that's a struggle even for our best writers and journalists and organizers in other corporate spaces. Right. When I worked for New York Daily News, I was writing an article about a boycott, and the editor-in-chief of the Daily News asked me to not mention a company that was a major sponsor of the Daily News. And I told him, I was like, well, I guess I just won't write the article at all.
Right.
But with the North Star, we don't have that concern. Like, so we can confront people in power, corporations in power, without hesitation because it's ours.
So I want to just ask a question. You do provide a platform that you can be 100% free, and I think that we're in a space where now social media activism, as we were talking about, is large. We see somebody like Kim Kardashian, who is working with her team and President Trump to getting black folk, a large majority of black folk that she has already done, exonerated from prison. What are your thoughts on that, and how would your publication address something like that?
Well, I'm gonna have a couple thoughts about Kim Kardashian and others. The smartest thing that she has done lately is she has started to surround herself with experienced people, experienced even abolitionists and freedom fighters and attorneys that actually know their way around the system. I think, like most people who had a big heart for change but didn't really know how to fight for it, I think she was clumsy at first. That's when we talk again about like intention and impact. Her intentions, I think, were pure, but her impact was sometimes messy. And so I'm glad that she's fighting for things the way she's fighting for them. I've actually met some of the people that she's fought for, and they are deeply grateful. The thing is, she has to have in her closed community people who will tell her the truth about Trump's intentions, and I think she may have that now in a way that she didn't a year ago. When celebrities try to get into social change, they have to understand that their following and their super fans may really help them in one area, but they can actually do damage if they're not being advised on some of the underlying systems at play. And so my greatest fear of Kim Kardashian and others isn't that she's not helping people. Like, there are people she's helping, but is she being used even by the Trump administration to, in problematic ways? I think she's aware of that challenge, and she's a unique case. I mean, anybody in a committed relationship to Kanye is a different type of person. And
I'll tell you something.
yeah, so I mean, very few celebrities, and she's a mega celebrity.
Yeah.
Very few mega celebrities get social change right, and what I have seen from her over the past 3 months in particular is her take a step back and try to say, okay, maybe I was more clumsy than I understood at first.
Right.
So she seems to be trying to learn, and people are surprised when, I'm an apologist for her and others who work with the Trump administration, because I can't do it.
Right.
I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But here's what I know. There are still millions of people who are incarcerated, and we don't get the luxury of just fighting for them when a Democrat's in office.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for people. I have critiques of her and critiques of Van Jones and others, but I'm thankful that there are people who still go to that table, because somebody still needs to be at that table, even when a problematic person is in office.
That's it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming, being transparent,
Yeah.
and these guys go to the jugular with you.
And you got to come back when the book comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
And
Thank you for
we're
having
gonna
me.
get you together on your lyrics, but thank you.
We have a tutorial for you.
I forgot how bad I was.
We had to bring it back home for you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later on Black Coffee Lab.